before prison, and if you don't mind sharing, what landed you there?
Okay, like I said, I've been an entrepreneur for 6 years, but before that, I had spent 20 years in prison. From June 11th, 1996 to October 18th, 2016, I was in prison, and I went to prison for a homicide. I was charged that night with first-degree intentional homicide. I went to a jury trial. I was facing life. I got found guilty of a lesser offense. I was sentenced to 40 years in prison. Served 20 years of the 40 years that I was sentenced to. So as far as my life before prison, wow, man, just a young man out here trying to make a fast buck, had bought into the street lifestyle, took on the street mentality, and some of what you see today in some of these young guys, I displayed that type of character.
Definitely got to get to thinking about, what we're doing with our money and who we're entrusting it to.
Welcome to the We Got Problems podcast with co-hosts Curtis G. Martin, Rhonda L. Brown, and Khalif Johnson Sr., the one and only podcast where solutions get discussed to our community's everyday troubles. Each week, you will hear mind-blowing conversations and actionable tips and strategies that you can implement in your daily life to become more effective. We got problems and we got solutions.
All right, you guys, welcome to the show. This is We Got Problems, the podcast where we discuss solutions to our everyday issues in our community. And I'm Curtis G. Martin. I have my co-host, Rhonda L. Brown.
Hey, everybody.
My other co-host, Khalif Johnson Sr.
Peace. How y'all doing?
And our other team member, Lashika Phillips.
Hello.
And we have a special guest here with you guys today, Ed Hennings. And Ed, why don't you go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself, what it is you do, and where you come from?
I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm 51 years old. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur, starting businesses and running them for about the last 6 years and a little change. I've started a barbershop and beauty salon, which was my first business. Within that barbershop and beauty salon, I had my own products like beard oil and conditioner and stuff like that. Then I sold that barbershop once I got into the trucking industry. A guy sat in my chair, told me about trucks, and I was hooked. By the time he came back and got his next haircut, I had bought me a truck, and I was ready to go. After that, the last 5 years, I've been running that trucking business, and now I'm the footwear business. Just out of just my past of being on that grind, man, out here as an entrepreneur, grinding it out, putting in that work, and a couple of conversations with some people I know. They said, start a shoe business. Another conversation said, stay in your lane. And my lane has been, putting in that work. And I started my shoe business just around the people that's in the workforce, not designer shoes, but giving the grind a makeover, man, giving people that's out there working every day, some reasonable to wear, but also with some style to it. I found when I was in the barbershop, the shoes that I wore were either too heavy if I wore boots, but if I wore my tennis shoes, I got hair on. So that ruined both of my shoes on both occasions. And in the truck, things that were safe was ugly. So I said, man, I'm finding another problem here riding in this truck. So here I am today with the footwear business. And those are the problems I solve with my footwear.
So you say you're from Milwaukee. I know our team member Rhonda is from Milwaukee, and she found your story.
I am not from here.
Well, you live in Milwaukee.
I live here.
But it's all good. Milwaukee's a good place. I visited there last year. Hey, but anyway, so she ran across your story being on the news. And I think they marketed some type of way where ex-felon or prisoner gets out and starts 3 businesses or something like that. So my question to you is, what was life like before prison? And if you don't mind sharing, what landed you there?
Okay. Like I said, I've been an entrepreneur for 6 years. But before that, I had spent 20 years in prison. From June 11th, 1996 to October 18th, 2016, I was in prison. And I went to prison for a homicide. I was charged that night with first-degree intentional homicide. I went to a jury trial. I was facing life. I got found guilty of a lesser offense. I was sentenced to 40 years in prison. Served 20 years of the 40 years that I was sentenced to. So as far as my life before prison, wow, man, just a young man out here trying to make a fast buck, had bought into the street lifestyle, took on the street mentality, and some of what you see today in some of these young guys, I displayed that type of character as a young man. So I know what they're thinking. I know what you plotting to do. I know the stench. I know the smell. So when I start talking to the young guys, I connect with them on that level because I know exactly what they're thinking and what they're going through. So very much a mirror image to a lot of things that you see today.
So going to prison, how has that changed the trajectory of your life? Like, did you decide to become an entrepreneur while you were locked up?
I guess in such a way, I was an entrepreneur before I went in, just not in the right way, right? But when I got in there, like I said, I was facing life in prison. So I'm in a holding cell waiting for a jury to come back with a verdict. So I know we watch Law and Order, we watch all these police and crime shows on TV, but that can't even do with justice or what it really looks like and what a person really goes through. I'm sitting in a holding cell waiting for a jury to come back with a verdict, right? The rest of your life is hanging in this decision. So while I was waiting, I just made a promise to myself. I made a promise, number one, to some goals and some dreams that I didn't shoot for at a young age, and said, if I got another opportunity, that I promised that I would, make good on some dreams and on some goals, and I would do better with my life. And the jury came back and found me guilty of a lesser offense. So at that moment, I got my second chance. I didn't get out right then. And that didn't mean I didn't have to put in any work, but that meant I had a second chance, the possibility. With 40 years, I was in prison working like it was my second chance. I was doing everything on the inside. I was working on the inside of Ed, trying to make Ed the best version that he could be while I was in there, because some of the best advice that I got was be great right where you are. So I took that advice, man, and every day of those 20 years, I was building and working to one day do things like I'm doing right now.
Man, I can only imagine when you were finally released, right? Can you talk a little bit about what you have learned about kind of what is missing in the community for people who are entering back in the community? Like, have you noticed like there are certain things that we can do better as a community to help prepare folks that are re-entering into society? I mean, clearly it sounds like you were set up for success, right? But not everybody has that same willpower, the same discipline. But I'm really curious to see where you have identified where the community can do a better job.
Okay, 100%. I had to identify the things and the decisions that I was making in my own life. But I found that some of the things that I was finding out about myself in prison, it held true across all lines. People in prison, people in the free world, people in this community, people in that community, but more so people in poverty, people that's in the urban community that's dealing with the stresses of not having and not being able to provide. Very stressful situation. And I identified that first of all. But the second thing was starting early. My granddad taught me a lot. I wrote a book, and a lot of that book was a lot of the principles and values that my granddad had instilled in me that I see in society today that we got away from. And I'm gonna start with just saying this. When I speak somewhere, I tell people like, we have allowed opportunity to kill our opportunity. And people looking at me like, what does that mean? I'm gonna say this. When my granddad was coming up, he didn't have some of the opportunities that we have today to go to school in certain areas. He wasn't able to mix with other cultures. So all he had to do was rely on himself. So he had a strong work ethic. He had common sense, respect for others, And last but not least, the sense of community. Because when you don't have anybody else to rely on but self, you're going to deal with self in a better way. But due to the fact that we got new opportunities, we was able to go to the other side. We forgot about sticking together. Second of all, we got the internet. So now we got the internet. It makes everything look like it's in a microwave, and we got past work ethic. And work ethic, nobody has a strong work ethic anymore to like granddaddy. Third of all, respect. Respect for somebody else. We just threw that thing out of the window, not even for ourselves. So now if you're a straight A student, but if you build that on lazy and disrespect, it really don't mean anything. How good is straight A person that don't have no respect for nobody and they lazy? So we allow opportunity to kill the opportunity. And that's what we're looking at right now in society, is that we got away from so many values. There's so many clinical people, straight A students, said that work ethic is trauma. Life is tough. And if somebody is telling a kid, an adult, or anybody that this thing is easy, they lying to them.
Big facts. That's big facts right there. Okay, that's good. You kind of brushed over it, but let's touch on it a little bit more. You said you're a writer, you're an author. You're an award-winning author at that. What made you want to write books? What story did you want to tell when you wrote your book? And what's the name of your book, and where can we find it?
Okay, the name of my book is called The Answers, A Guide to Passing the Test of Your Life. And you can find that on my website, edhenningsco.com. And it was just when I came home, and within a year of being home after serving 20 years, I opened my first business. And then in my own community, which is in the urban community, a lot of poverty, I bought a home there. So a lot of people in Milwaukee, you've been home a year. By the second year, I bought a home, and they was like, man, you doing all these good things. How is you doing it? So I found myself answering those questions a lot. And then they said, man, you should write a book. And I said, well, okay, I'm gonna write a book, but I'm gonna answer those questions that everybody been asking about how did I do it. So I put the principles and the values in the book, and I put it out there, and I said, man, these are the answers. This is how you do it.
And so was it hard writing the book, and what was your process, and what strategies did you use to write the book?
Yeah, first of all, I'll be the first to tell you I'm not a writer at all. I'm more of a speaker. I can get in front of a crowd of people and speak with the best of them, depending on the nature of the audience. If it's some juveniles, delinquents, if it's some people getting out of prison, if it's some people that's out here in the streets that want to make a change in their life, or just anybody that want to make change, then I think I'm one of the best at it. So you take a person that can sit there and take notes and write it down while I say it, and then we can make a book. And fortunately, I ran into an editor that operated just like that. Said, you sit across this table, I'm gonna sit on the other side of the table, and I want you to tell me about your book. And by the time I got done talking, the book was ready to go.
That's one way to do it.
Right. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, it was a perfect match. It was a perfect match. It worked well.
Okay. So you are also a motivational speaker.
Yeah.
What made you start that?
I mean, hitting rock bottom. Hitting rock bottom, man. I walked in, when I first walked into the prison system, I was a 24-year-old young man. I was about 145 pounds soaking wet, man. And it was guys that been in there 20 years, 15 years, pumping that iron. I'm talking about big fellas, bone crushers. And immediately, it took me all of 5 minutes to see that it was thousands of broken men. They wasn't broken on the outside because you couldn't look at them and tell. But being that we had sit down and have a conversation, and it took like a minute and a half to find out, like, oh man, self-doubt kicked in when you was probably 5 years old. And you've been carrying this self-doubt all your life, man. And that's what's really been breaking you down. And I myself motivating in there. Taking the programs like Scare Straight, youth awareness programs while I was in. And it just organically carried over to when I walked out. I was working in a barbershop, and the guy was mentoring some kids. And he said, Ed, man, could you talk to my kids for me, my mentees? And I walked to the front of the barbershop, talked teas, and my phone been ringing ever since.
Almost on cue, right? That was like perfect timing.
Yeah, that was good.
That was like perfect. I mean, there's so, I mean, we could, I checked out your website. I have not read your book yet. And one of the things on the website, well, hold on, let me go back for a second because I'm not sure you answered the question. Somebody asked you, where can we find your book? Can you tell us and the viewers, where can we find your book?
Okay, edhennings.com.
Okay, so they can go there, they can get the book. So the question that I have is on your website, and I think also in the article, it has that you are I think the word was policy change advocate. What does that mean? How would you describe that to folks?
I would say a lot of, man, just as an entrepreneur, a lot of things that we're taught, a lot of the systemic things that's going on, it's probably one of the main culprits in what's happening right now. When you look at it, we walk our children into a school and we walk away, and we expect a teacher to say, hey man, I want my son to come out like this. And that's not a teacher's job. A teacher is working off a career. They're getting paid a check. They're not there with the love that they're going to get at home. The home is the number one teacher. So once again, I find that some of the things that's on that curriculum works in contrary to the belief in myself. Not only some of the things that's within the law, because law is fluid. They'll change that thing next week on you. So the thing about that is that even that thing is working in contrary to us coming together as a people and making some change in the community, because there's so many policies, so many procedures, so many laws that we adhere to because we haven't advanced to the point where we understand. That's just like, I go to prison for murder, but I come in there talking, I got a speeding law. That don't apply to this situation. You can't come into, you in the law, you in the court for a speeding ticket, and you come in there talking armed robbery law. It don't apply. So that's how some of us and most of us who are in charge of making policies and procedures, we applying laws that go in one field and we spring it over here and apply it to something else. And there go a whole mishmash of stuff. And we sitting 40 years later and somebody apologizing and saying, oh, I'm sorry. But by then the damage has been done and it's been made.
Okay, so you mentioned your trucking business. You said you got the idea from one of your clients. Tell us a little bit more about that. How is that going for you, and what's some of the ups and downs to that? What can you tell the people about that?
Trucking is fine for me, man. I didn't plan on getting into trucking. I got my barber license while I was in prison. So that was my dream, was to get out and open a barbershop. And like I said, I did that. But, you know, being an entrepreneur, always trying to take it a step further, man. Now, he told me about those trucks, and I bought me a box truck, non-CDL work. You don't need CDLs for box trucks. So I started out with that, one truck, driving that truck every day, 7 days a week, 6 in the morning to 6 at night. I'll pull up at the barbershop and cut hair from 6 at night to 11 at night, 7 days a week, just on the grind, right? And trucking is very lucrative, but it's some work. You know, a lot of people say, I want to do trucking on the side and all of that. I say, well, you need to sell Avon or sell Tupperware or something, because trucking ain't no side hustle. Trucking is serious. Like, I'm not even in trucks no more, and I'm doing the other side of trucking, but it still takes up so much of my time just with doing trucking. It's lucrative, but you're going to put in that work. So those people that's looking at it, is sexy. You see all the benefits of it and the money people making. They going from 45,000 to 6 figures instantly and stuff like that. But they working. They working for it. Nobody's giving nobody nothing in no trucking business.
That's big facts.
So with your trucking company, do you still have it? And if so, do you have employees? Do you
Yeah, I
hire
started off with one truck.
felons?
Yeah, I do all of that. A
Okay.
lot of guys that I hire, I did time with them. They came home after me. I had the barbershop first. They get out on Tuesdays here in Wisconsin. So every Tuesday, I had a couple guys from prison in the shop getting their hair cut. Once I started the trucking business, it continued to flow like that. Guys get out, they come to me, man, I need a job. I need some to get into the trucking business. I say, I'll put you on. Sometimes it out, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I take some losses, but I'm always trying to help some guys and see them get on their feet. And I tell them, man, it's some work. You can do it. It all. I talked to a guy this morning. He said Nike's motto is just do it. He said my motto is it can be done. And I said, man, I wish I would have thought of that.
That's very inspirational, though, because I see that most folks when they get out, they're so focused on themselves, which is perfectly fine, right? I mean, you have to do what you have to do, but it really sounds like and I don't know if you intended for it to be that way, but your focus really was on the community and giving back and really imparting into the community and to other people what you learn and what you are learning. And not every entrepreneur or every person that has an entrepreneurial mind has that willpower and the charisma to do everything that you've done. But if there's one thing that entrepreneurs could do, I guess, to support folks that are coming out, who are going back into society, there's one thing that you say that entrepreneurs can do, even if we're not starting an organization or writing a book. What's that one thing we can do to support the work that you are doing?
The one thing that people can do is don't wait until prison. I could tell some people that prison, June 11, 1996.
Yeah,
that's when I physically went to prison.
Okay.
But in reality, I was in prison years before my body caught up, man. I was already there, and it was just time. I was just living out that prophecy, right? And there's people I can see at 7 and 8 years old, and it's people that never been to physical incarceration. And I walk away saying, you locked up. You incarcerated. You like, I ain't never been to prison. I ain't never been to jail. No, not physically you haven't. But mentally you locked down. It ain't no barbed wire, ain't no guards, ain't nobody around keeping you in that prison that you in. You are mentally there and you can't walk out of it. But people that never been to a physical prison, they don't understand the connection and the correlation between the mental and the physical. Yeah. Because we wait for the not knowing that man or that woman been in prison a long time ago.
Wow. Hey, so basically for us to wake up or not be blind and offer support and leadership, mentorship, like you said, ahead of time, right? Yeah. As folks are growing up, as folks are maturing. Catch them while they're young.
And even specifically, when I tell people, no matter how much time you're sentenced to, the moment they put the handcuffs on you, your reentry mission begins. Don't wait till the last 3 months. Don't wait till the last year. You done did 5 years. You got 6 months left. Now I'm gonna get ready. No, you should have been getting ready the moment they took you downtown to that courthouse. You should have been starting getting ready for reentry. Don't wait. So if you wait till the last 3 months, we all creatures of habit. You done formed your habits. No matter what you think in your mind, you gonna fall back on those habits that you have. And those things take time to change.
Hey, look, I got another question, man. I got to kind of go back now because you had mentioned the in jail like years before. I like that, but you mentioned something earlier when you said when you were in there and you talked to men, they were these big buff dudes lifting all this weight, and you said that they wasn't broken on the outside, but they was broken on the inside, and you can tell. So you talked about that life coaching and being a coach. How did you see that in them, or what made you believe that they were so broken inside from some of those conversations you said you had?
Because so many instances in my own life, I look back on. And so when somebody says something, and they might say, well, yeah, man, I'm going to do it next week. To you, that might sound like one thing. But to me, I've done that so many times in my life. Like, man, you can't tell me that because I used to tell people that. So you can't tell. It's like you talking to your children and they trying to get out of something the same thing you used to do with your parents. It's the same way with the men in prison. They would come and say something to somebody, and I could just look at them and be like, man, I did that a million. That's not going to get you nowhere. You know, and I know that brokenness, you know, and it comes in so many different ways. It's not just one brokenness like, oh, somebody did something to me when I was younger and it traumatized me. It's a brokenness out of love. You know what I mean? When I started my trucking business, my grandmother, who raised me predominantly, she told me, boy, don't you think that barbershop is enough? But being that I had spent my 20 years getting ready, my grandmama's love was holding me back because she never flew before. You know what I mean? I'm about to fly, wow. Mama. I know flying to you looks scary. But for me, I'm about to jump off the top of this building and fly across to the next one. But if you've never done that, that's gonna look scary as hell. Mm-hmm. So all I'm saying is when I was in there and we was having these conversations, I was able to say, brother, look, it's hard on everybody. Don't play that with me. And before long, I'm the 24-year-old kid to these older men, and they knocking on my door saying, man, let's talk. I need to talk. And I'm saying, man, look, I'll be out in a minute. Let's talk. Come down to the barbershop. Let's go to the gym. Let's walk the yard. Because I'm going to tell you, you know, man, everybody got something. Only difference is people, some of us people, we think, number one, we by ourselves on an island. We the only ones going through it. Or number two, that mountain we have to climb is just too big. I cannot do it. And so many times that voice is saying, you can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. And that's going to kill it. That's going to kill it. From there, you incarcerated. It's over. You might escape, but it's over for you till you kill that voice.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's touch on this. You started a clothing brand as well. Am I correct?
Yeah.
How did that come about, and how's it going?
It's really a shoe line. You know, I have some hoodies and stuff to go with it, but really it's just the work boots and work shoes because like I said, my advice was to stay in my lane, and my lane is the grind. That's my number one asset. People ask about how I'm able to do it. I say, man, I'm not the smartest. I'm not the most talented, but I'm just not letting too many people outwork me. I just raised my work ethic to another level. And, you know, they say the youth is on the young. So you got to work in before for the physical wear down, and you can't work like that no more. So you got to get it in while you can and build that empire. So I got out with that mentality that I was going to grind and grind and grind until I built myself an empire and throw my feet up. So that's it, man. It's just like, people know that if your work ethic ain't there, you can have ideas. Somebody with a strong work ethic idea ain't got to be that good. Somebody with a strong work ethic don't have to know that much. Somebody with a strong work ethic, they going to make some mistakes, but you know what? Hard work going to be hard luck any day of the week. So we relying on everything, the number one denominator, and that's hard work. Michael Jordan, Kobe, on and on, Denzel Washington, all the people we know, they outwork everybody in their field. That's it.
Wow. So this next section is our rapid fire. So it's a quick 20-second answers, whatever comes to mind. You know, some of them might be, you know, might catch up a little bit, but you know, it's all right. And so this first one, you kind of touched on it quite a bit, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. What's your why? What makes you do what you do?
Wow. Inspiration. You hear about businesses that I started? Them not my businesses. That's just what I do. My business is inspiration. And why? Because I've been there.
I couldn't get to my mute button quick enough. Real quick, this is a part of the rapid fire. So, most important lesson, life lesson learned. What would you say that would be? And I know there are
Yeah.
many.
Believe in yourself, man. Self-doubt, crush it. Fight that thing like you fight disrespect. Fight that self-doubt like you fight somebody that put their hands on you. I'm gonna make it real quick. They say that violence can be with a gun or a knife, and people run when people start shooting. But people don't run when people start shooting down their dreams. It's just as violent. Get up out of there.
Okay. How about this? Were there times when you think that it wouldn't work for you?
Yeah, when I was sitting in that holding cell waiting for that jury to come with that verdict. But when that jury came back with that lesser included offense, I knew it was go time from there, man. It was go time. It was time for me it was championship.
All right, if you can go back in time, what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Oh my God. Just what I said, man. Those dreams, those hopes that you have, you don't let no mama, no daddy, no gun, no nothing stop you from dreaming and going for it, man. Don't playing safe. Everybody playing it safe. Oh, I'm gonna play it safe because what if? It's no such thing as failure, man. I'm talking to the young Ed. There's no such thing as failure. You can quit, but you can't fail. So you just put in that work and put in that time, you're gonna get what you want out of this thing. If you're just not willing to put in time, that's it.
Do you have an accountability partner or mentor or coach?
Right now I don't. But I do. I don't have any per se in my personal life. But just one of the practices from prison was that I had mentors that didn't even know I was alive because I took articles out of magazines, took articles out of books, and those became my mentors. Nelson Mandela was my mentor. I just found me a new mentor, a lady named Bridget Biddy Mason. If y'all know who that is, look her up. But she's my new hero. I'm learning a lot from her. She was born in 1818, and she should be known to people out in LA. Got free and bought a lot of land and a lot of property, and she sold it to other people. Red line, 100 years before we could actually buy property legally. So, yeah, I just really take from somebody else that don't even know I'm alive. I'm watching and I'm learning.
Yeah, one of my kids just taught me about her. Wow, that's kind of crazy.
Amazing.
Okay. People always say you should invest your money. What are some of the assets you would recommend that the youth invest their money in and why?
Investments. Well, it's so many, man. It's so many things that we can do as far as investments. Trucking was beautiful for me. Trucking was a thing for me. Now I'm leaning more into my coaching and my mentor and my speaking business. That's my calling. But whatever it is you invest in, make sure it's something that you're kind of aware of and know a little something about. Me, I'm ready, shoot, aim. You know, we talk ready, aim, shoot. I'm ready, shoot, aim. I start shooting and I aim that thing later. but yeah, some quality investments. Real estate is always a great one. The Airbnb thing is going down, and that thing is making a lot of money. I say that I took a lot from Zuckerberg and what's the Amazon. They left a great business model. Don't own anything, just control it. And you know, look at Uber. They probably make $5 to $10 out of every drop off. A small piece out of millions of, and they're filthy rich. And they ain't trying to own the taxis like the old school. They switched the game up. Let me get $5 of that. $5 not a lot of money, but you start talking about millions of cars, them $5 and $10 start to add up.
It look good at the end of the day, huh?
That's right. That's right.
So if you could sit down and have a conversation with one person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali, man. That's one of my guys that I followed, man. When I was in prison, I sat in there and I was watching Ali. and I was watching Will Smith play Ali. So it was double bubble for me. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching one of the greatest fighters of all time. Then I'm watching one of the greatest actors of all time. And that it was like they was talking to me the whole movie. And I'm sitting there like in a daze. And it was saying, Ed, you can do it, man. You can do this. You can do this. And I just found so many different things that Ali did besides just boxing, and his approach towards confidence in the people. We just thought Ali just talked crazy, talk bad to people. But in reality, that was his way of saying, if my people can see somebody with this much confidence, it might resonate with them. And it took me to become a grown man before I understood it. And I was like, man, that was genius. That was genius. And so many people don't understand the impact of confidence. Having some confidence, like, it's almost disrespectful to some people for somebody to have confidence. To say, oh, you all that, you got confidence. Like, wow, you know what? We got some work to do.
Yeah.
You can be intimidating to people.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, confidence can be. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, I don't know if you answered the question by talking about Muhammad Ali, but we do a whole lot of talk about books and reading and the importance of reading. So we gotta ask you, gotta know, what's that one book? The book that you've been reading so many times, the page is falling out, or like, I don't know. I know we all have that book. What's that one book for you?
Actually, it's a couple, but one that sticks out. The one, Think and Grow Rich is one. Think and Grow Rich is a great book. That Napoleon Hill. Yeah, Napoleon Hill. I'm in that all the time. 48 Laws of Power.
We just finished that.
Yeah, that's one I stay in that because it helps me with emotions
on that one.
It helps emotions, right? Because I can have an emotional feeling and I can feel it. So I'll go to 48 and I'll read that law and I'll be like, yeah, let me control my emotions. Something to work with besides my emotions. And that helps me out. That helps me out for real.
Okay. You hinted on it earlier with Lashika. She asked you something. What is the best tip that you can leave for the community to make it a better place? Like if you had to just leave one tip and you put it on the wall and you want all the youth to walk past and read it, what would that one tip be to make the community better?
Make the community as a community, we got to start early. Don't we waiting too long. We waiting until long. I know some of us as men, we wasn't in the household because this is where we didn't have no business being. You have to start early. I know 5 and 6 years old, that's my precious baby. Nothing's going to happen. Get that out of your mind. I didn't have a cell phone when I was a kid. I ran out like nothing. I got a few scars, but I'm good. We living in so much fear. Oh, something's going to happen. They need to call me between class. Like, no, get out of here. Nothing's going to happen. I promise you.
Right, yeah.
It's gonna happen. We petrified of society that we got baby dolls, and then once we get started too late, we say, "Oh, he lazy, do nothing." They never did nothing. You never let them do nothing, and it takes a long time. I'm gonna put it like this: us people of color, we worked in this country for 400, 500 years for free.
Fact.
It's gonna take us a long time to get out of that hole. Because if you and I work for 6 months without getting paid, we gonna be in a hole. But let me tell you, when you hold that child in that house past 5, 6, and 7, you asking for it. It's gonna take a long time to dig out of that hole.
Facts. You got to get them off the porch early.
Hey, before we ask you to tell the people where they can find you, Rhonda, what's something you want to leave the people with after this interview?
Oh, I don't even know why I'm surprised by that question. I just forgot about it. No matter what your situation is, you can always turn it around.
All right, good stuff. How about you, Trash?
Oh man, resilience, King. just showing that you can perspire through any situation. And when you get that opportunity, don't let it slip through your fingers. You definitely got to strike while the iron is hot.
All right, cool. Lashika, what do you want to leave the people with?
Your overcoming and breakthrough is not just for you. It's a whole community before you and behind you.
All right, cool. Good stuff, y'all. So, Ed, go ahead now and tell the people where they can find you and how they can get that book one more time.
Man, they can find me at edhennings.com. That's where you can find the book. You can find the footwear at Ed Hennings Co. Stands for edhenningscompany.com. That's where you can find the shoes, and you can find the book at edhennings.com.
Hey, and before we get out of here, I'm gonna just say, you guys, like they echo what they said. It's never too late to turn your life around. It starts now. It's almost like that hard 75 what we're doing. If you make a mistake, you start over from today, right? And I'm on day 5, right? Anyway, you guys, we got problems, but we also have solutions, and we out.
Peace.
From the team at CRC Empire, we want to thank you for listening. To stay connected with us, like, share, and subscribe to the We Got Problems podcast. You can find us on social media platforms at Curtis Martin 247, at Rhonda Wrights Official, and at the_trash_vegan_. We got problems and we got solutions.